Good morning. Today is Monday, the 23rd of March. We are just speeding through the month of March this year. But today we are talking about a topic that I think I did not see coming, nor is it a topic that I really am excited to talk about because it's a little sad, I think, and it's a little sensitive, if you will.
This morning we found out that
This
someone's
morning,
dear to us. Yeah, Chuck Norris passed away.
Chuck Norris passed away?
Yeah. Yeah. Last night I was going to bed and then I saw that he was hospitalized. And then all these Chuck Norris memes came out. You know, like poor hospital or hope the hospital make it through. But yeah, this morning we found out that he died. He passed away.
Chuck Norris passed away. Okay.
At 86.
I did not know that. Anyway, so today we are talking about a topic that I think is a little bit more sensitive because it is still ongoing, and people may wonder, why are we even talking about this? But I think it's important, and I think it's necessary for us to pray. And so that's what we're talking about. You don't even know what the topic is right now, actually. All will be revealed. You are listening to the Dear Church Podcast. Welcome to the Dear Church Podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene, Chunsuk, and David. And today, once again, Pastor Eugene, we're talking about something a little bit sensitive, and that topic is
the silver top, does it taste different from the white top?
actually,
That's
we
true.
should do that.
We should try
So
that.
there is a theory apparently on X where White Monster, which we're not affiliated or sponsored by, although if we were sponsored by White Monster, do you think you would?
I'll drink 7 a day.
That's highly dangerous, I think. No one would support
I think
that.
8's the limit, from what I heard.
From who, though?
From the interwebs. So I would go right up to the cusp. I might open an 8th can and just drink halfway.
Just smell the 8th can. So we have Monster today, supplied by Pastor Eugene. And there is a theory out there that the white top, I'm going to call it the frosted top, tastes different than the silver top, and you have the frosted one and I have the silver one. And so apparently they taste different.
How will we know? We don't even have a cup. And then
I'll take your word.
The saliva will be like.
I'll take your word for it.
We need to get cups. Can we get little cups?
I'll take your word for it.
In the meantime, we could try this apple pie.
Yeah.
So I'm always on the hunt for the cheapest and most tasty apple pie.
We found it. It was in Warwick.
No. The ShopRite, I think, is number one at $5 or $6.
Yeah.
This one from Aldi's is also $6.
Oh, you found this at Aldi's.
Yeah.
It's very good.
What do you think? $6 apple pie.
I feel like it's really sweet.
I feel like the apples are too fresh.
I couldn't tell.
I want my apples more, I don't know,
Like damp?
like jelly,
Oh.
like preserve,
Oh.
like apple preserve. All right, let's do this.
Okay. So,
I'll pour in a little bit for you, and you pour in a little bit for me. Everybody else has the frosted top.
yeah.
Just you. You have the silver
so
top.
for me. Oh, please. No.
A little bit more?
No.
Okay. Well, it looks different.
A little bit.
Why does it look different? Let me put it in the same light. Does it look different?
It looks a little different. Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
This is a different recipe, maybe.
Wait, it's the exact same ingredients on the can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Which one are you going to drink first?
Let's try the silver one first, okay?
Silver top, okay.
Cheers. All right, here we go.
I think the white top's going to be better.
It's very seltzery.
Yeah,
This one.
it's super bland. I think the white top's going to be better.
Let's try this. I feel like it's blander. No, it has a more citrusy aftertaste.
Yeah, I like the white one better. Wow, that's very interesting.
That's true. The white top has a more citrusy aftertaste. Yeah, it's crazy. The exact same ingredients.
So today, I think perhaps us eating the apple pie and Monster is this is a sad episode. And I think I want to lay out the purpose of this episode. I think the reason why I wanted to talk about Ligonier and the recent happenings at St. Andrews, Ligonier, and the Reformed Bible College is because this is a ministry that most of us, if not all of us, have been greatly encouraged by. We've been to the Ligonier conferences. We've read the books published by Ligonier, their Table Talk magazine, and we have been greatly supported, helped, instructed by Ligonier. So that's why I wanted to talk about this topic in particular. And I wouldn't want our people to incorrectly judge or incorrectly talk or think about the events that have been happening. And so this is an episode to guide our people away from that. So it's a podcast episode to discuss and prayerfully consider some things that are happening or have happened because news is coming out now and we are aware of it, but we haven't really talked about it. No one has really talked about it, and perhaps for good reason, but we're still hearing about it. So let's discuss it as best as we can, as prayerfully as we can. And so that's the goal of this episode, by the way.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, again, like the whole point of this isn't to like slander or to rumor monger or to gossip or whatnot. It's just to say, hey, these are the things that happened. These are the public news that have come to light. How do we pray for this church? How do we pray for this ministry? How do we pray for this college? That kind of thing.
What do you think about the apple pie?
Apple pie is good. If you take a hike down Palisades Interstate Parkway, the PIP, you will get a delicious apple pie from Warwick or what's that town?
Junsuki.
Tarrytown.
Tarrytown.
It's not that good.
Yep. He was saying
Based
that
on
yesterday.
what? I don't trust you.
I
Based on what?
went with you.
I know, but based on what? What is it not good on? Based on?
This one tastes better than the apple
You
pies we
think
had.
this one tastes?
Yeah.
Okay.
This $6 apple pie beats Noble Pie. That's kind of crazy.
Noble pie was delicious. I think David
Noble
went,
Pie is like 20 something bucks too.
but their apples are probably like Fuji or something.
I don't think you make
Why
apple
is
pie with Fuji.
Fuji apples the apples to make?
That's
apple
the
pie with?
first apple that I thought of.
No, that's not the right apple.
To give us some context, I think some of us may have an idea of what's going on. Some of us may have no idea what's going on. But to give us some context on...
Honestly, nothing.
Okay.
I'm eating my apple pie and Monster.
On-
Good combo, by the way.
It is. This is like not... this is
I'm always so confused right now.
this is a sad episode, but on March 10th of 2026 this year, St. Andrew's Chapel, R.C. Sproul's former church, the church that is connected with Ligonier and with Reformation Bible College, excommunicated Stephen and Heidi Nichols for defying the church's authority. I think the term that they used was contumacy. And just as a background context, Stephen Nichols served as the president of Reformed Bible College. He served as a chief academic officer and was one of the 7 teaching fellows at Ligonier. As of last week, his information, I guess 2 weeks as of this podcast, his information was removed from Ligonier's website. And so all these things are going on. Not to mention, on March 11th, the next day, Nathan Bingham resigns from his position at Ligonier. He had been serving at Ligonier for 14 years and most recently was serving as the vice president of media for Ligonier Ministries and also as the executive producer and host of the Renewing Your Mind podcast and the Ask Ligonier podcast. On March 13th, this is all happening within a span of 3 days. Reformation Bible College announced that Stephen Nichols will conclude his tenure as president in May 31st of this year, having served for 12 years. And this was the response that he gave, or the comment. He wrote, "I'm very grateful to God for these years. I've enjoyed working under the board and alongside all the faculty and staff. And of course, I'm grateful for all the students I had the privilege to serve. I believe, however, that it's time for me to step aside for this next chapter of RBC and allow for new leadership to move RBC forward to what God has planned next. We know that God guides us and we trust and rest in Him." So that happened. So just to give some history on St. Andrews, right? And this may prove to be useful in thinking through the background. In December of 2025, St. Andrews, the congregation withdrew from the PCA. And this was actually connected to lead pastor Burke Parsons being suspended indefinitely from the pulpit by the denomination in February of 2025 by the PCA, being found guilty of, and I quote, unbecoming pastoral conduct by the Central Florida Presbytery. So the church appealed the sentence. Burke Parsons appealed the sentence, but the congregation voted to leave, 669 to 108 to leave the PCA, so they left. After this, Stephen and Heidi Nichols left St. Andrews. Then in March of 2026, which is what we just talked about, they were excommunicated on grounds of contumacy or defiance, failing to participate in the church's judicial process. This story gets a little bit deeper, though. Excommunication is a big deal, as we know in church discipline. And what we see on social media indicates that the excommunication was, there was a conflict, an ongoing conflict between former youth pastor Stephen Adams and Stephen Nichols. This is an excerpt from a post that former pastor Stephen Adams posted on his Facebook regarding the incident, which went live after the excommunication of the Nichols. And I'm just going to just kind of highlight some parts here. As rumors are apparently being spread, including that I was fired from St. Andrew's Chapel, thus compounding slander upon slander, I've decided that I have no other choice but to explain and broad outline what has transpired. For more than 2 years, I've been the target of a campaign of harassment and stalking, accompanied by violent, wicked slander. Think of the worst thing someone in my position could be accused of. Yes, that's what it was. In the middle of 2024, after one particular incident, I informed some of my fellow elders and pastors about what had been done to me. It was shocking. Toward the end of 2024, matters intensified. In January 2025, I finally filed a police report against Steve and Heidi Nichols. It is important to note, especially given the gossip and rumors, that throughout this entire ordeal, the only reason anyone knew anything was going on or that vague accusations were being made against me was because I myself went to my fellow elders and then I myself filed a police report after reaching the point of genuine concern for my family and me. The Nichols have never once come forward willingly to make accusations, nor have they willingly spoken to any authorities, ecclesiastical or civil, much less have they ever offered any shred of evidence. They cannot, because every word of it is false, categorically false, wholly false, wicked slander against an innocent man. Then he talks about a little bit about the fact that he resigned from this position because he came to the point where he couldn't endure these things, and that the Lord had determined to move him back home. And so he came to that conviction that he must resign. He wasn't fired. And the truth is that he resigned against the wishes of my fellow elders, is what he said. So this was a post that he posted. After this, another post came out from, this is an anonymous post. Your public account leaves out an important part of the record. You were not forced out solely because of harassment from Steve and Heidi Nichols. Your resignation followed an investigation by the Central Florida Presbytery into multiple instances of inappropriate and abusive conduct with minors over several years. And then just highlighting here, your current explanation presents the situation as personal persecution while omitting the investigation that preceded your resignation. So then now people are saying, okay, well, was this former youth pastor guilty of these crimes, of these wrongdoings? Is that why he was pushed out? But finally, and sorry, this is taking a long time, but I think all this context is a little bit necessary. Finally, this was Thursday the 19th. So last Thursday, Stephen Nichols posted on his X account. And I'm highlighting here. He wrote, any season of transition can be difficult. The narratives and communication circulating about us on social media over the past few days have made this season even more difficult for us and for our family. Since others have shared their version of events, we believe it is appropriate to share ours. In January 2024, we learned from the counselor of our daughter, Grace, that he had submitted a report to the Florida Department of Children and Families of suspicion of sexual abuse of Grace by Stephen Adams. On January 10th of 2025, we reported suspicion of sexual abuse of our daughter by Stephen Adams to St. Andrew's Chapel. Over subsequent meetings, we realized that we were at an impasse with our church and that we had different perspectives on how to handle the situation. On April 21st, 2025, we notified the pastor of St. Andrews that we would begin the process of finding a new church. We notified him again on July 20th that it would be our last Sunday, and it was. So after they left St. Andrew's Church, they received indictments. They were accused of slander, unresolved anger, collusion to deceive, failure to follow session directives, and breach of membership vows. And then after St. Andrew's Chapel voted to disassociate from the PCA on December 14th, they immediately resigned their memberships. And on that evening of the 14th, they joined New Hope PCA in Eustis, Florida. So all of this is a little sad, especially because this is a church that we really respect and pray for. This is a ministry that we really respect and we pray for, and we've been helped by so many times and guided by so many times. But it seems like they're going through a lot of trouble here. And, you know, I don't want to talk badly about a church. That's not the goal of this podcast, once again. But it's a situation that I think a lot of people don't know how to react to or respond to, right? Since this is like the bastion of Reformed theology, I would say. Like, you know, we have seen other evangelical ministries come and go, and this has stood its ground. And now it seems like it's shaken up a little bit. So I guess how do we think through this? How are we supposed to pray for Ligonier, for RBC, for St. Andrews? I mean, is it really our job to say, hey, this is wrong, this is right? Or how are we supposed to think through this?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. You know, the news that just comes out seems to be like something new every day.
Yeah.
But it especially is, you know, painful to hear of people that we have respected to such a high degree have scandal around them. Whether they're guilty of it or not, it's just sad that they have to go through it. And that's something that you brought and mentioned. We should also continue to keep in prayer. What other broad resource do we have if Ligonier falls, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, you know, there's something that we definitely can continue to pray for. And I'm sure, you know, that the Lord has the church right where he wants it to be, or where he wants her to be. And if there is a purging, if there is a fire, for whatever reason, you know, we will know after the purging is done, after the fire is done, what remains will be good.
Right.
And so we can continue to pray for Dr. Nichols and, you know, his wife, who's also in the middle of all this. We could pray for St. Andrew's Church and the Ligonier Institution. Hopefully, you know, everybody will come out better for it.
Yeah.
But we're in the thick of it. And I think one of the warnings that we should probably give is make sure that, you know, without all the, if the case is still open, your heart should still be open.
Yeah.
And, you know, continue to pray. I don't think we have any hard evidence showing anything either way right now. But it's always very difficult. And, you know, you can conjecture. I don't know if it's wise to conjecture, but
yeah,
if these two parties were at an impasse, like Dr. Nichols said, if they were at an impasse on even what transpired, let alone how to handle it, you know, we know that there's some truth to what both parties might be saying, and then, you know, whoever has the power or seat of judgment, it's going to be on them.
Yeah.
So in the end, I do hope that the session of St. Andrew's comes with a good and righteous judgment when it comes to this case.
Yeah, I mean, normally, you know, if something was happening within a church, it's not really something that we would talk about on our podcast. But I think because this is such an influential church, this is such an influential ministry.
And he's such a public figure.
Right,
I mean,
and a lot of us have seen what's going on.
Yeah.
Right, and so I thought, you know, we should probably address it just because, you know, people are going to be asking questions like, is this true? Is this true? Is this really happening? And so I just wanted to maybe talk about it openly and just kind of, you know, a call to prayer, maybe.
Yeah, I think really it is a time to pray. It does seem like we are in a season where all this information that people are now putting out there on the internet, wherever you get your information, whatever your news source is, it's not leading to peace, but it's leading to more chaos. It's not leading to any kind of, you know, serenity in the sense where we feel at ease. Now that we have more information, it leads to more unease because of this information. We feel not hopeful, but helpless. We feel not, you know, joyful, but angry. And so I feel like the fruit of all the things that are coming out, it's leading us away from the fruit of the Spirit. And that's something that we have to watch our hearts for. And you could be sad and you could be grieved, but it still shouldn't be something that is counter the fruit of the Spirit. And so I think we should all be grieved to a good degree about what's going on in Ligonier and St. Andrews. And we want both of them to do well. But at the same time, if it leads you to a place of, let's say, hopelessness and helplessness, it leads you to a place where you start distrusting all institutions, including the larger church. I think that's a bad place to be in. That's something where I would say, brother, you got to watch your heart. Sister, you have to make sure you guard your heart when you hear news like this.
I think one of the things that we were kind of talking about, Pastor Eugene, and off camera, offline, if you will, is when events like this happen, I think it could be easy for us to fall into slander. And I think that's part of what this situation is about now. The events that have transpired, it's about slander. Slander knowingly or unknowingly is a sin. And I think the difficulty is that it's oftentimes hidden. And again, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, we've discussed this before, but a dangerous phrase that we Christians can sometimes use is, I think so-and-so needs prayer, or I think that needs prayer, or this needs prayer. And then you start talking negatively about that other person, perhaps even gossiping, slandering. So I think maybe this might be a good time for us to just kind of maybe review what is slander? How would you define slander? How can we identify it in our own lives? Because it seems like slander is a big theme in what is going on right now. And I think it'd be a good reminder for us to check our own hearts as well. And so how do you identify slander in your own life? And how would you define slander? Is there a difference between slander and gossip and just simply talking?
Yeah. What is it in the Greek? Katalalia, right? And lalia is like language, like glossolalia, right?
Yeah.
And kata is to go up against or go under. So it's like slander is like a very low form of talk, or it's a talk that goes against someone, right? And I believe ragal is it's the Hebrew way of saying it. So Hebrew word for slander in the Bible will be ragal. And, that could also be used to spy, It's a negative word, I suppose. And so we would think then to give a false report, to speak evil, to backstab or backbite, those are all malicious and those are evil. What I find fascinating about the world today, because we mentioned the things that are going on really quickly, is how fast slander spreads and people don't label it as slander. People don't even know what they're doing as slander. I have case in point kind of thing here where I was surprised. I know the things that are going on in the internet are going on, and sometimes I don't pay much attention to it because, the internet's a different place, especially like X or Twitter. It's a different place than real life. And then what was surprising is another pastor forwarded a link to me talking about Erica Kirk.
Okay.
This is Charlie Kirk's wife, if you don't know. It's the widow of Charlie Kirk. And so she's widowed, and there's all this now, rumors, gossip, and it's effectively slander against Erica Kirk, saying she's like a pedophile or she runs a pedophile ring. It's wild. And that she basically was behind the murder of Charlie Kirk.
I see. Okay.
And so we have people like Candace Owens that have continually spewed this really poison and infected so many, because millions of people watch her and listen to her. Infected so many that it's gone to like places like TikTok. And now I have a pastor friend who goes, I kind of believe a little bit of this. And then I responded back saying, you're crazy, that kind of thing. But I wanted to talk about what slander is and why it's so evil. It's one of those things that we talked about where we could say something and just say, wait, I'm just asking questions. Why are you getting all defensive?
Right.
And nothing this person can do can get themselves out of the place or the pit that you put them in. So the whole thing about, Sam, you're a North Korean spy. And nothing that you say after I said this can get you out of it, because if you say no, I'm not, that's what a spy would say. If you go yes, I am, then you are a spy.
You admitted it.
There really is nothing, and then if you then come to attack me, you'll say something like, wait, I was just asking questions. I was just curious. Why were you in Korea on this date? And why are you so close to the DMV? And I don't know your DMZ. Sorry, DMV's another hellhole. But
what if someone works there?
they know it's true. What are you talking about?
I guess so.
And so
That was pretty good.
And then, you're like, well, no, I didn't do that. It's like, well, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
And if anybody out there, they have any evidence of where Sam really was, you can send it to me at, blankety blank at, owens.com or whatever it is. And so these things are now so prevalent. And now we know where the money is flowing. Money is flowing to these kinds of people, where they'll put something out so salacious, so slanderous, that people are now buying into it. And I'm telling you, you become stupider for it. You reduce everything to this one huge conspiracy. Ultimately, it lands to the Jews are evil. And there's a place and time to address that, I suppose. Maybe not in this podcast, but hopefully soon. And you land on this really, really stupid place. And I think that's where we see the true fruit of slander and slander in a society. You eventually will bring down, if you continue to promulgate and promote and disseminate, share, let that stuff also sink into the deepest parts of your body. That's what Proverbs says, goes down to the deep. Like these are like sweet morsels. They go down to the deepest parts of the body.
Juicy bite.
And that's where we'll be. We'll be that kind of society where it went from a high trust society now to a low trust society. You'll see that happen in a generation, because that's how evil and dangerous slander is. And I don't think this is any form of hyperbole when we say slander is demonic. Slander is demonic. And so whatever it is, false testimony, backbiting, all these other things that you're saying about people, those will put you in a place of judgment, of high judgment, because God hates slander. He hates it so much that you don't have to look further than just reading the simple Psalms, like Psalm 101, verse 5. We could read that really quick.
Psalm 101, verse 5 reads, "Whoever slanders his neighbor secretly, I will destroy. Whoever has a haughty look and an arrogant heart, I will not endure."
You will be destroyed. That's pretty strong language.
Yeah.
On the final day of judgment, Matthew 12:36. This is what Christ says. On the final day of judgment, what's going to happen?
Matthew 12:36 reads, "I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak."
Slander could incur the death penalty in the Old Testament. We won't get into that, but you could look up Leviticus 20:10, Numbers 35:31. You don't have to look it up, but it is something where it is one of the abominations that we'll see in Proverbs 6. And you can read that from Proverbs 6:16 to 19. He talks about these are the 6 things that God hates and 7 that are abominations, right?
This is Proverbs 6, verse 16 and 19. "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, a feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers."
There's multiple instances in that, just those 7 things that fall under slander. That's how bad slander is. Those are things that God really hates. Go ahead.
But so if we're to correctly understand what slander is, like, is it just things that I say that would make someone look bad? So for example, if I was like, Chunseok says he can bench 400, but he actually can't. He benches 315. And I'm just saying that out of like envy, let's say, right? Is that slander? Like, is it that serious?
That's not slander. That's truth. But that's not truth, actually. That is slander. because he benches way more than 315.
Right. So when we talk
you
about
just
slander,
slandered him. So Psalm 101 verse 5.
no, but
would
this
apply
is
to
this
you.
is an example.
For and as an example.
As an example, I would
you
be
would,
yeah.
You would be under the
in
punishment of-
within the example, fair enough. But so is that how far it goes though? Like, what is just me saying something to get off my chest, like verse, like you know what I mean? Like where do we draw the line?
This is why you can tell that the society is falling and rapidly degrading, because slander is so easily in our mouths. It comes out so easily. Anytime you say anything negative about a person, it should be very heavy. Anything negative, even if you know it to be true, it should be weighty. You should have patience. You should pray over it. And then if it's absolutely necessary, yeah, I mean, there are times and places you'll have witness testimony against someone. That's not slander. That's truth, right? Because you're trying to bring out truth.
Yeah.
Now, it's so easily done where we talk about anybody and anything in a negative way without even doing the due diligence, and we'll say things like, well, I'm just asking a question. Why are you getting all worked up about it? Because you are destroying this person's reputation. Once that reputation is destroyed, they cannot build it up again. And the things that really do make me sad is, look, I thought this was just that's why I think maybe I'm wrong. This is why I didn't mention it before. The whole Erica Kirk thing, it's just stupid internet trolls trying to get clicks, and yeah, they got a bunch of clicks. That's how they make money.
Yeah.
But they have their due. They're going to face judgment, and unless they repent, they're going to pay for each one of those crimes. But the fact that it will go into the ears of people that are close to me, that lead groups of people, like I said, this is a pastor, that are now saying that they have an inclination of believing this, is shocking to me. It's shocking because any kind of due diligent research will show you, they're very bare bones stuff, like shallow stuff. You Google search, you do AI search, whatever it is, will show you that you come up short with all these stupid conspiracy theories. And so this is why what I want to get back to is there is a direct and profound parallel between slander and murder. They flow from the same evil heart, and they end the same way, where that person is destroyed. That's what it is. What did Jesus say about Satan? He said he was a murderer from the beginning and a slanderer. He goes down later, right? He goes and a slanderer, right? He was a murderer from the beginning. And you be thinking, he didn't murder anybody. Did he murder anybody? Who did he murder, He murdered them. Basically, he brought death in through his lying and deceit, and he slandered God. They said, God didn't say that. He lied about God. He doesn't want you to do that. He wants you to, he's holding back from you.
He doesn't want you to be like him. Yeah.
That's Satan. Every time you say something negative about a person, and that's not true, maybe not entirely true, same thing, bro.
Right.
Even if you give like a half truth, that's a lie. And that's what all these people are doing. They're doing all these half truths, saying, I didn't say a complete lie. No, it's still a lie. What you are doing is you are mimicking your father, the devil. And the devil is the one that was our first murderer and slanderer in the Bible.
So are you saying then that I could never talk about another person ever? Like ever? I can't talk about Chun-Suk behind his back ever?
I wouldn't talk about Chun-Suk behind his back ever because he's right here. Why would I need to talk about him behind his back?
No, I'm saying like if he wasn't here.
And you couldn't even go around his back. He's huge. His back is like, bam. That's how when he posts up, he just like thinks it right.
He will never touch the ball.
Face.
He will never touch the ball.
He does this little
I'll
baby
just
hook.
deny
boom,
all day.
Done.
You can't even
get your arms around his like.
He can't.
Like his shoulder.
He knows. He'll tell you. He doesn't even want to step up.
But that's the thing. Like, why would you do that? The person's right there.
But if he wasn't, like, let's just say if he wasn't.
If he wasn't, then you'd be like, well, he's not here. I don't know.
Like just
when we're
never
talking
talk
about
him.
like Steve Nichols,
Right.
or Heidi Nichols,
Right.
or this other fellow you mentioned, Adams, right?
Stephen Adams. Yep.
I don't know. I don't know them. I don't know what degree. I can conjecture, but why would I talk about the conjecture to the people that are listening? Why would I talk about that? Because it has no bearing on truth. I'm just conjecturing, right? I'm taking some bits of pieces of information and I'm coming to a pseudo conclusion. That's what all these right-wing podcasters and left-wing podcasters are doing now.
Right.
And it's tantamount to slander. It is slander. It's slander when you end a good name. Erica Kirk had a good name and you ended it. The Bible talks about a good name being more precious than all the greatest riches. And you took it away from her. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Why is slander such a big thing where it's on the same sentence? It's paralleled with murder because murder destroys the body. Slander destroys the person while they're alive.
So if it's this serious, I guess the application would be for us to maybe never talk about other people at all when they're not there, ever.
Don't talk about other people. Talk to them in person if you can. If you are guilty of gossiping or slander, just know that this is a grave sin. And this sin is what brings down institutions. It brings down churches. It breaks apart families. It breaks apart fellowships. It breaks apart buddies or buddies, whatever grouping you have together.
Yeah.
It's the gossip and slander that breaks it up.
Yeah.
Rarely is it where you're like, oh, well, I kind of disagree with you on this. And then you say in their face, no, man, it's the slander and gossip that broke you guys up. And so slander and shedding blood are equated. Like even let's look at Ezekiel 22:9. Pretty simple, this one. And I'll show you how even Ezekiel, you are put
Ezekiel
together.
chapter 22, verse 9 reads, "There are men in you who slander to shed blood, and people in you who eat on the mountains. They commit lewdness in your midst."
There are men in you who slander to shed blood.
Slander to shed blood.
Yeah, that
For the
slander
purpose of
is so
shedding
that they
blood.
could kill you.
Yeah.
Eventually, they want to murder you outright, but maybe it looks bad, so they'll slander you. They'll make you look terrible, so eventually they could kill you. It was something that evil men did. And so when you're a part of this whole slandering culture that's out now, you better watch out because God hates and he judges both the murderer and the slanderer with equal severity. Like we said, hands that shed innocent blood, false witness who breathes out lies. Those are all the same. That's in the same list. God hates it. And so these are things where God, again, remind you in Psalm 101, verse 5, he says, I will destroy. I will destroy. God hates that. We should say that if you have been a slanderer, if you have been talking bad about whomever, doesn't matter who, you should repent because then you recognize that the only true hope for anybody is the gospel of Jesus Christ. You have the hope in Jesus that you as a slanderer and a murderer can be forgiven. You have this hope where you were once a child of the devil. The devil was your father, and now you're going to be engrafted and adopted into the family of Christ. And so hopefully people realize this.
Is it possible to slander to your spouse? In the sense of, no, because I think a lot of people are actually guilty of this.
I know who you're thinking about.
No?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of bad. Just leave them out of this. That's slander.
Wait, what? I didn't mention anybody. No, but I
Saw it
genuinely.
in your eyes. I could spell it right now for you.
No, I
It
genuinely.
starts with the letter.
No, I think it's oftentimes because obviously, you and your spouse are one. We feel the need to share everything and anything with our spouse, whatever we know or whatever we have heard and whatnot. Is that necessary? Like, is it possible for us to slander even when it's myself and my wife? Is that even a possibility?
It's possible to slander anywhere to anybody. I'm just telling you the effects of slander have in the Bible. We always see the effects of slander because it's always tied to murder and death. Thousands of people die. Communities get wiped out. Saul believes a lie that Doeg said, wipes out a whole city of priests. Saul, because they all thought it was, he he was convinced they're all for David and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Communities.
Doeg
just
the
get wiped
Edomite.
out. Yeah.
Oh, I memorized that.
False witnesses would bring false charges to Jesus Christ and have him crucified. He ultimately was the recipient of all that slander, all the slander in the world. He took it and he died. Slanderers intend destruction. When you are a willing or unwilling participant in that gossip and slander, you should be repentant. When you, like I said, knowingly or unknowingly spread it, what you are doing is you are spreading damage that is irreversible. It's irreversible. And that's crazy that we speak so easily about other people, so flippantly, without any weight to our words, reckless. Proverbs 12:18, brother. Tell the people what it says.
Proverbs 12:18 reads, "There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing."
It's like a guy who's just swinging a sword and then just like cutting people with it,
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
randomly. You're crazy, right? Instead of using the tongue to heal, you're just saying whatever. Because guess what? You get attention when you have reckless words. It gets you hits. You get salacious headlines. You know, if we titled this episode, you know, Steve Nichols from Ligonier gets excommunicated because he is a, and then we just say
Blank.
that's a slanderous headline, but it'll get us clicks for sure.
Yeah.
No one wants to click on a headline that says,
Let's stop slandering.
let's stop gossiping, guys.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
okay. You know?
Yeah.
So what are the headlines we read? What are the things that we click on? It's always something salacious, always bordering slander, because we are that kind of sinful person. And we are inviting in our own destruction. When you believe something like wholesale about a group that is negative, that's bad. You have to recognize this as bad. If you go, the Jews control the world or blah blah blah, that's bad. And here's the evidence. What evidence, bro? And that's so sad that we believe this. Like, we just take it wholesale and we just believe all this stuff. Zero nuance, using zero intellect. And it's the same thing. If I say the same thing about Koreans, people be like, "You crazy, bro? You crazy?" Yeah, it's like, behind all the evils in East Asia are the Koreans. What if I said that and I gave you all this crazy stuff about what they're doing? They're blah blah blah. There is. I could give you some true stuff, like there is no politician that has not been corrupt, that didn't end up killed or in jail. That would be true, right, John Suki? That's true. And I use that information to continue to slander the South Koreans, saying these guys are no good people. They only bring pain into the region of East Asia. We need to make sure South Korea is wiped out. Now they're spreading their stupid, Korean germs throughout past East Asia, through their technology,
Android,
through their K-pop,
green bubble,
through their K-dramas.
K-dramas.
He knows a thing or two. If I said stuff like that, that would be tantamount to slander. You can't say stuff like that, and yet we say it so easily about other people groups. It's wild. It's wild to me.
You got to fight back, Dale. He's the king of K-drama, actually. That's not slander. That's just a fact. And it's in front of his face.
See, that's how it's so easily coming out of our mouths.
That's not a slander.
That's my point.
That's not a slander.
It's so easily
It's
just
in front of him, and he agrees.
out of our mouths. Like,
no, it's true. He's
like
the king of
saliva.
K-drama.
When you have that white monster can, just touch your lips, the saliva just comes out. He has to wipe it. But yeah, God treats slander with the same gravity as murder, and now we should know why. They both steal life. But God will redeem God will redeem those who have been slandered in the end, and God will redeem those who may have slandered but ask for forgiveness and put their trust in Jesus Christ. All others will be judged. That's an absolute fact. And so, hopefully you're never on the receiving end of slander, but I got to tell you, in our culture now, it seems very pervasive that if you are on any kind of platform at all, people will do whatever it takes to slander you because they're going to, they're like mosquitoes, man. They're like parasites. They will suck out every single ounce of, any kind of notoriety that they can get or money they can get from slandering your well-built reputation.
So a good rule of thumb for Christians could be just don't talk about other people.
Don't talk about other people. Pray for other people.
Pray for other people.
And then look, if we say something is wrong, so let's say we decided to have a segment on why, this person or that person or this so-called pastor is spreading lies. That's not bad. I don't mind. I don't mind that.
But why is that not slander then?
See, we got to get to the next part. We got to get to the next part. You can't talk bad about other people, and it's got to be heavy. And you have to protect your sheep from wolves. And you have to know the difference. The discernment has to be there.
So how's that connected though between slander and protecting
Because
sheep?
those wolves will say that I have been slandered. And you'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have slandered. So the wolves will use this against you. Do you think that this is so simple that the Satan's going to be like, oh, you got me? Or you think he's going to turn it around and he's going to start using Bible verses on you too, right? Didn't he use it on Jesus Christ as well in the temptations? Just know that your enemy is very wicked and very wise.
Is this one of those situations though where, people always say that stuff like, oh, hate the sin, don't hate the sinner. Is it one of those situations where you would say, hate the false teaching, not the false teacher?
No.
No, because the reason why I say this is because oftentimes,
What did R.C. Sproul say, Johnsuke?
What's wrong with you people? Oh, he said God sends the sinner to hell.
Yeah, exactly. That's what R.C. Sproul said.
yeah, not just the sin, he sends the sinner to hell. But what I'm asking is, when we encounter false teaching, right? I think sometimes people may go above and beyond the call of duty in the sense of, yes, there is a sense in which you talk, you condemn the false teaching or the error or the heresy, but people go above and beyond and talk more about the person, more about the person's character, all that kind of stuff. Is there a line between distinguishing between the false teaching and who that false teacher is, and then going above and beyond to slander that person's name? Is there a difference?
Yeah, I think this is why that first part was serious, but it was pretty straightforward in my opinion about the slander.
Okay.
Maybe you didn't know it was that bad. Now you know it's that bad. But you most likely, if you're listening to this, know how bad slander and gossip is. It's evil. It's evil. It's evil. Okay? But now, when we are pointing out false teachings and we are saying this person is most likely a wolf because of the teachings that they hold, those are all then what the false teacher will come back and say, you are doing the same thing that you have said we shouldn't do, which is slander. You are slandering my good name by calling me a false teacher or a false witness or a wolf, right? In the fold of the sheep. Those are things where people will say, and they have said. Because when you get back at them, they're like, why are you attacking me, bro? Why are you being so aggressive? That's not very Christian-like, as if we should continue to get pummeled by all of this evil and slander, and we should just sit there and take it. So that is also a tactic or a tool of the devil. And that's something that we ought to also be very wary of, or at least aware of.
So anything that's false teaching is just open game. You could just say whatever.
No, I mean, now people are like, there was, maybe you could put this one up.
I've had some people on social media, trying to grill me. Like, what do you believe about every issue? What's your theology? And at one point I just tried, I'm completely on board with the Nicene Creed, completely on board. And it was very clear that was not enough. If you say the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, you are in lockstep with the global church throughout all of history. Yeah. Like that is Orthodox Christianity, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed. But that's not enough for today's American evangelical fundamentalist MAGA world. They want to know where you are on your politics and social issues because they've
not just them.
Right, but they've lifted those up to creedal importance. I'm not going to say they're not Christians if they also affirm the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, but by adding these other issues in, they are casting out the majority of believers around the world from being legitimate Christians. Well, we don't want that. That's what fundamentalism always does. It increases the number of things you have to adhere to in order to be considered a sister or brother in Christ.
Right. So this is why, this is an example that I'm trying to bring up. This is why discernment is so key. What we take as the very basics and the fundamentals of our faith, meaning what we say, confess together in the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed, because our church actually does both, and we kind of just, what do you call it? We go back and forth between the months. So 1 month we'll do the Nicene Creed, the other month we'll do the Apostles' Creed. What we take as a basic fundamental issue with our faith, these guys have now taken it to be the breadth, the whole scope of the faith. That's the issue. That's where the discernment or the difference between what Phil Vischer and what we believe lies. I believe what we take as a minimalist view, this is the minimal amount of things you need to believe to. If you don't believe this, you're not. You don't even have square one or step one. We have the minimalist view, but they have put that minimalist view to the maximalist view. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so if their view is correct, if that is the maximalist view, then why do we do anything at all? We could just come together for 2 minutes, recite the creed, and then go home. Because that's the maximalist view, right? As long as we believe this, we're Christian, let's do that. And all these guys are nitpicking at, this guy's doctrines and all that. They're so tired of it. Why do all this? Just do this, be happy we do this. That's not true, right? And so James White, a very famous Christian apologist, who's part of Apologia Church, I believe, right? With Jeff Durbin. They have a podcast. James White doesn't go on it, but Jeff Durbin does, called Apologia Radio, that you can listen to. He wrote back and he commented, so the Judaizers in Galatia were good, right? Because they believed in the Apostles' Creed. They believed that God is one, that God is in three persons, all that stuff, right? But they were Judaizers, meaning they're the ones that Paul condemned. And even when Peter would sit with the Jews more because, when they came, the Judaizers came. Yeah, Paul spoke against Peter to his face, right? No slander there. It was to his face, right? And so James White would say that. Another guy named Joel Berry, I think he's one of the writers for the Babylon Bee, he actually commented, this guy affirms the Nicene Apostles' Creed, and it's a guy who is dressed as a drag priest. I think that's the only way I could really explain it. I don't even know if I want you to put that up there for people to see, David. It's kind of a disturbing image. Maybe even flashing it would be like burning people's eyeballs. But yeah, there's a guy who is very effeminately with a wig, dressed in some kind of is a semblance of a priestly garb with the rainbow stole, like a scarf. And so, yeah, this dude believes in that too. And that person is a heretic. This person is outside of what we would say is part of the community of Christ, right? So that's the difference between discernment. We are trying to help people discern because you could be outside the camp and not even know. You believe you're inside the camp, but you're really not. And so what discerns, like how do you discern what's inside the camp and what's outside the camp? And we always refer to the canon or the Bible. Do these guys really believe that the Bible is the infallible and inerrant word of God and we have to follow what the Bible says? Or is it just something that we could kind of see as some kind of semblance of truth? This is good stuff, if you don't follow it, don't worry. Jesus is going to forgive you, because that's definitely a popular message out there. So I don't know what they believe. They're just complaining about the people who say your doctrine is wrong on this, your views on this is either heretical or borderline heretical. And they're saying this to warn these fellow, seemingly brothers and sisters. I don't know if they are, but they continue to hold on to these views. Can they be part of the Orthodox faith? And the answer is obviously no. For me, the answer is obviously no. So when you say, if talking about if you're pointing out heresy, and you're pointing out these untruths that would put you outside the camp, how do we know that's not slander? Well, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to say that when you point out falsities and lies and deceit, that's not slander at all. That's showing people the truth. And that's showing that if you follow this, you are going to be led into damnation. Do not follow this. We have a whole spectrum of what we could believe. There's freedom in Christ, right? There's a whole spectrum of what we could believe, but we cannot believe what is outside of what the Bible teaches us. That's when you're outside the camp, okay? So when they add something or subtract something from the Bible, we are taught in the Bible that it will be added and subtracted to them. Added in judgment, subtracted to them from them in life. That kind of thing. And so you have to be very wary then of these kinds of teachers that you would see, let's say, online that you really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the fact that our kids, VeggieTales is beyond my time. And so I enjoyed that the millennials that grew up watching VeggieTales instead of another cartoon were blessed by it. But it's sad that someone like the creator of VeggieTales has fallen so far from biblical understanding and teaching. And these words that he uses are very subversive. They are meant to deceive. They are meant to be very tricky. They are meant to be, like transparent and not opaque. You're like, I don't know where anything is, that kind of thing. What does he believe? Who cares? As long as he believes in the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed, we're all good, right? We're all brothers, right? And the answer is no. You could be a heretic even if you do believe in the Nicene and Apostles' Creed. In fact, I don't think the demons would disagree with the Nicene and Apostles' Creed.
Because it's just stating facts.
It's just facts.
Yep.
I think the demons would agree with it. The demons are not on God's side.
Joe Rigney tweeted, to reject the Bible's teaching on the sinfulness of sodomy or abortion is to reject his lordship and therefore to reject both the Apostles and Nicene Creed. That was a nice add-on to what you just said, Pastor Eugene.
Yeah, and so if you're saying, well, how come you guys get to call people out and we can't call people out? You're going to say this is slander, blah, blah. Isn't it going to destroy this person's reputation? If you warn somebody about their heretical, like we're just taking this person's words and saying this is wrong. That's not slander. And it's sad. What's sad to me is we can't tell the difference now. We just can't say anything negative, period. So a lot of Christians are like that too. So they don't want to fall into the side of slander, so they're going to overcorrect to a place where
never negative.
They won't even correct falsities.
Yeah.
You'll never correct your child. It's like, I was beat as a kid, I was abused as a kid, so I'm never going to beat my kid or never going to discipline them.
It's like an overcorrection.
And that's an overcorrection, which is also evil and wrong, right? And so, yeah, you should discipline your kid. You should make sure that they grow up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You teach them what's right. You teach them what's wrong. That's a good way of teaching your child, right? I'm not saying you should beat your kid, okay? That's something that we can talk about another time, but don't say that you beat your kid up here in the podcast. They'll use it against you, CPSM.
I didn't.
In the end, pray for discernment. This is what I really want to convey to the people listening, our church members, to anybody that even might stop by, that has a relationship with us, that's listening to the podcast. Discernment is huge. Discernment is what we're missing. We can't tell the difference between slander and gossip versus heresy. We're not even going to call out heresy. That is very dangerous.
Yeah.
You call out heresy, And when someone goes, Jesus is not God, you go, that's heresy. You can't go, you're not a Christian if you don't believe Jesus is God. And so that's not slander. That is correcting heresy. And so when you see heresy, you should be like, that's heresy. Now, I'm going to go back, if that's okay, from the two extremes to now someplace in the middle. What if I disagree with you politically? What if I disagree with you politically? And so if I disagree with you politically or, some form of praxis in our ideologies, right? You think that you should raise your kid a certain way and I kind of sort of disagree. I think you should raise your kid in another way. If we slightly disagree, make sure, I would say, that because it's not heresy, that they are still in the fold. If it can still be bad. Don't get me wrong, it can still be bad. Like, for instance, you could believe that the moon landing wasn't real. And I will think that that is a crazy thing.
There's a movie about that.
Not to believe, right? Like, I personally believe that if you don't believe that the moon landing is real, you have issues. Because it never stops just at the moon landing. This conspiracy always goes and deepens into everything, to like 9/11, to all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think you got issues. Whatever it is, we handle it with graciousness, as much graciousness as possible. My job isn't to make you feel or look stupid. It is to correct some errors, right? So if I believe that you are in error in certain things because we disagree, it's something that we ought to do with graciousness and with a heart that is for the other person. I do not think that you should attack the person. And I think when you start attacking, that's when you start to get into the slander territory, right? You don't want to destroy their reputation, but you also want to correct their, the misinformation that they have or something that is incorrect. And so those are things that you can do well. You can agree to disagree on certain things, like, you don't vaccinate your child, I vaccinate my child, something like that. We could just disagree and just try to share information and be like, well, can we agree that, let's say, the mRNA vaccines are bad, and then you and I might both agree on that part, right? By the way, the FDA, they took it off. mRNA vaccines, it's gone. But we could agree on that. Maybe people listening will disagree. Maybe they love mRNA vaccines, right? They're like, oh, I love it. That's the future, that kind of thing. And so we could graciously disagree, and we could try to support it with facts that we find and have a dialogue and discussion. And sometimes it can be heated. Don't get me wrong. Debates can be heated. Think about Martin Luther in the debates. But when I start killing somebody, that's, you kind of gone overboard. Like the Diet of Worms. I want to get this guy in jail and I want to kill him. Then you've kind of gone overboard, okay? And so we could go into debates, even heated at times, but you always want to, as best you can, be gracious to your, opponent, if I may. And so that's how you have a good dialogue. I could disagree with you on something, and we could still be brothers. We could still be friends. And that's how I would hope things would get up. Now, there can be instances where you're like, well, this disagreement is too large for us to kind of reconcile to a place where we can be in the same space. That could also be true. And that's why I'm saying that takes a lot of discernment. This is what we're all kind of missing. So y'all are all over the place, like the guy who's swinging his sword wildly and just cutting everybody. We're all over the place. Like, I remember when Donald Trump was like on the ballot in 2020 against Biden, and then people would be posting if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, or you voted for Donald Trump because the vote would have happened already. They said, we don't want to have Thanksgiving dinner with you or something like that. That's wild. That's so stupid. And yet, we don't know where the discernment is, right? And so I think we are in a place in our society where discernment is at an all-time low. And I have a very simple reason for that, or explanation for that. It's because our biblical literacy is so low. People don't know the Bible. They don't understand the Bible. People who even call themselves Christians don't know the Bible. And that's something that we ought to change. We ought to change in ourselves and the generations that come after us. The generations that come after us shouldn't know less Bible than us. I believe our goal should be they should know more Bible than us. And they should, really revere the words of God and have that, really inscribed in their hearts, they hold in their hands. It's their frontlets and eyelets, where they will. That's what they see. The worldview is the Bible. I hope that's how we raise our children.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of ending this section. We talked about Ligonier, St. Andrews, and Reformation Bible College, and how we should be praying for these ministries, and slander, and how dangerous it is, and I guess the other side of slander, in which we overcompensate and don't say anything about the evil or the false teaching that goes on. And so it's a good reminder for us, I think, to know the Bible, to pray for the saints, and to continue to persevere. I wanted to move on to a current event, and this kind of has to do with this topic. And this is video that I hope David could play for us. And in this video, Jonathan Lehman, who I believe now is the head of the president of the Nine Marks ministry, he walks back the comments that he had made in 2018 when he said that it was not wrong for Christians to vote for a pro-choice candidate. He said that Christians should have the freedom and a guilt-free conscience to vote for pro-choice candidates. And in this video, he walks that statement back. And we'll play that video.
What's the belief you held 5 years ago that you don't hold anymore?
I think it was 2018 at the SBC. We did a 9 Marks at 9, in which Mark and I on stage talked about the freedom to vote for pro-choice or pro-life candidates.
Yeah.
Not because we believed in pro-choice, we are both vigorously opposed to it, but we recognized, or we believed, that there was still space for Christians to, there's multiple rocks on the scale.
Yeah.
Right? And wanted to say a Christian might choose to do this for other reasons. Okay, I'm looking at these 5 issues, and I disagree on this issue, but as I do my cost-benefit analysis, I'm going to vote for this dim for this reason. And we created space for that. Even as we were saying it, I was thinking to myself, and it's the sort of thing that, we had thought for a while and been saying for a while. Keep in mind, just to give a little charity to us, you're in Washington, D.C. in the 90s and the early 2000s, and you're desperately trying to, not desperately, you're trying very much to appeal to both Republicans and Democrats for gospel purposes, right? I think I said that, we said that too long. I don't think you should vote for a pro-choice candidate. I think that was wrong. And at these days, I would say I think you're sinning by doing that, at least in most circumstances. If you have 2 pro-choice candidates, for instance, that's, there might be exceptions to this, but ordinarily, I think you're sinning by doing that. You're giving the sword of state to somebody who's going to kill babies with it.
Yeah.
And that was beginning to clarify in my mind 17, 18, 19. I never have personally voted in that direction, but I wanted to create a little space for it. And I think that was wrong. I don't want to create that space anymore.
Yeah.
I want to say you should not do that, Christian.
So he's walking back his statement that that as a Christian, you have the freedom to vote for a pro-choice candidate, which is encouraging. Because to be honest, when I heard this, when I had heard that, when he had said this, it was a little sad for me, I think. But so this was encouraging. But we talked about this off camera. But now people are saying, "Oh, he's only saying this because his ministry is going down and they're losing money and whatever."
That's slander.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's connected.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Any thoughts on this? This is pretty cool to hear Jonathan Lehman say.
Yeah, it's very encouraging, I suppose, that he is now saying this, but I don't know his motivations behind why he's saying it. But it's obviously true. Obviously, you cannot, as a Christian, vote for a pro-choice candidate.
That would make no sense.
I don't know how many times I have to say it. These pro-choice candidates that have been voted in open the floodgates to baby murder. It's always been the case. They always not only make it what they call women's health care more accessible, it changes the landscape of morality in the states when you vote these guys in. And so you are not only opening the doors for bloodshed, you are changing the morality of our nation. Just because you hate some dude because he has orange skin doesn't mean that you should vote for someone that will usher in God's judgment. Why? Because you are you're voting in somebody that's going to, open that spigot where all this evil, it's like opening Pandora's box, all this evil is going to go rushing into our country.
Yeah.
I don't understand why a Christian could believe that you could vote for a pro-choice candidate. I remember even speaking to certain Christian brothers saying, "Oh yeah, you're just that pro-life guy." It's like, wait, hold on. You're not? I am, but that's a single,
Single issue
voter thing, and it's like, wait, that's bad? Tell me why that's bad. Oh, because there's all these other things that we should keep in mind. Yeah, we should keep it in mind. And there's 1 million babies being murdered every year. That should be on top of your mind too. I don't understand where, let's say, we should have more access to Medicare because, so many people will suffer versus 1 million babies being killed every year. I don't understand why that's a comparison, because that is insanely just, how shall I say, it's like you put on the blindfold and you go, why am I bumping into things when I walk? It's one of the more morally inept things positions to hold. Well, yeah, I want people to have decent access to maybe the medical needs that they have. I honestly don't understand why the government has to do all this, but that's a different story. But if the government allows for the killing of babies, that's a huge thing. So now we have all this moral equalizing. What is it called? Moral. Anyway, people are just like equating everything morally. Like, you don't want babies to be killed, but all these old people are dying from lack of health care. It's like, yeah, that's bad. But, I'm not actively participating in the murder of these old people. You could help them get health care. They are going to get sick. They are going to die. It's going to be sad. And there's a difference between that and thrusting a knife in the back of a baby's spinal cord. I think there's a difference. How come we can't see the difference? There's all this moral equivalence that people are putting on all these topics, saying, baby murder is just one aspect. As a Christian, they're saying that. But there's all these other things that we should think about. What about income inequality? People are going to die for that. Yeah, but it's different from sticking a knife in the back of a baby's spine and then dragging the baby's parts out of the mother's womb and then burning it to like light a hospital, which is what the UK did, by the way. It's insane. It's disgusting. It's depravity at its lowest. If our tears are flowing, it should be for that. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think it's encouraging, like you said, that he has taken back what he said. And
yeah, I mean, I hope the trend goes where people will say the right things. Again, I don't know the heart. I don't know the motivation, so I don't assume anything.
But it's true, though, and like you said, he's telling the truth, and people will be impacted by this. So,
right. So, if you're a leader that has ever said that it's okay to vote for a Democrat, even though they're pro-choice, because of whatever reason, I don't know, it's false.
Yeah.
Man, Virgil Walker, if he was here, he would have had a field day.
Yeah.
And so we got
good friend of mine.
We got some good brothers and sisters that understand that trying to make your tent big is okay, but at what cost? You're trying to extend your tent at what cost?
Yeah.
If you're going to compromise your the core beliefs, the doctrines that the Bible is teaching you, then that's bad. The fact that we have wiggled or wriggled our way into saying that this could be a possibility for Christians, maybe that's why the church is in the state that it's in now. because of these kinds of teachings that were out there in like 2018, 2019, 2020. It's okay to vote for a pro-choice candidate if you're a Christian. No, it's not. It's just not. And then you fall for that moral equivalency. Well, if these babies are getting born, you're going to have to see them until they die. No, I don't. No, I don't. It's different. It's different from when you stick like a literal knife in someone's back versus I'm going to try to help them the best I can. And there may be some, unfortunate, untimely deaths because I can't help everybody. There's going to be disease, there's going to be famine, there's going to be lack of some supplies or whatever the case is. I'll do my best, but that's different than actually literally sending people to gulags, murdering them, putting up propaganda to slander your enemies. This is Mao's revolution. This is, Stalin's gulags, all these things. That's different. Putting Jews in gas chambers, it's different. And this is where I think that we have such a low level of discernment in our society. The only way to get that back again is the fear of God and adherence to His word. And so I hope that's the trajectory that we go on. I'm not sure we're there, there yet. But I hope that we can be placed on that trajectory again.
Thank you for that. Not to make any light of anything that you just said, but there is a distinction between wriggled and wiggled.
Yeah.
And wriggled implies a full body action, while wiggle often refers to smaller partial body movements. For example, toes or fingers. And thank you for that, Pastor. I think that's really helpful. And this was a very helpful episode for me.
Yeah, I think people know.
Yeah.
People that listen will be like, yep, Sam needed this.
No, my face is also heating up because of the monster, so I think we need that.
I finished mine. Did
you?
Quite excellent.
My face is heating up slowly. And so I thank you for the wisdom for this episode. We thank you for listening to this episode of Dear Church Podcast. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith.
Peace.